Welcome into Seattle Seahawks today. I am Tom Downey. Some major rumors out there around Seattle. A Laremy Tunsil trade, Quandre Diggs, the whole Russell Wilson stuff that has once again popped back up, and the NFL franchise tag window has now opened as well. We're going to break down some Seahawks franchise tag candidates, discuss the latest on one Quandre Diggs. There's some interesting developments on that front. Before that, though, as promised earlier, I should say last week, we had some promises of a shout-out. If you downloaded and then sent me your Fetch Rewards app screenshot, people did it. Chris Collins was the first one to do so, by the way. Shout out you, Chris. Mary Handel and JJ Elsky, hope I'm pronouncing that last name correctly there, all hit me up on Twitter. All right, franchise tag candidates. Let's begin with Quandre Diggs because, well, there's some updates on Diggs from Corbin Smith, one of the top Seahawks reporters out there. No details on a potential year/compensation. A deal isn't imminent, but I'm told the Seahawks have opened negotiations with Pro Bowl safety Diggs with the hopes of resigning. That news came across earlier this morning. If, of course, you're getting pre-injury Diggs, which I hope is the case, let's ride. I think it's a great idea for Seattle. This is one of their biggest free agents, one of their best ones out there. Coming off, I'd argue, one of his best years ever, and he's been an impact free safety for you. As the Seahawks defense has changed over the years, we'll spend some more time on the change potentially coming in that in a little bit. I love the idea of finding a way to retain Diggs. He's too important. Yes, you've invested heavily at safety, looking at you, Jamal Adams. Diggs is an awesome football player. He fits your scheme. He fits your defense. He played through the final year of his deal. You want to reward him within reason, even though he did get hurt, if, of course, the medical does check out. So what do you guys think? Will Diggs return next season? We're going to get to some more franchise tag candidates. Diggs certainly is one of them. I think maybe the most logical of the grouping if you can't get a long-term deal done. So whether it's an extension or the tag, will he be back next year? Type in Y for yes or N for no. Duane Brown, next up here, the veteran left tackle who is beginning to age and showing signs of aging. The extension or the franchise tag cost for Quandre Diggs checks in somewhere around the $13 million tag. The Duane Brown cost to be just under 17, all projected. So $17 million is pretty high going rate for a top offensive lineman, but Brown's age does concern me. I don't think I would tag him. I think I would try to bring him back on a fairly cheap, if you don't have a different left tackle option, a fairly cheap short deal. 2 years, 25, somewhere in that range. It sits a similar figure, but you go longer, you can play around with some of the figures in terms of how you juggle the instant impact cap hit. So I don't mind bringing back Brown. 1 year, 17, it's too much for me. The other option that makes some sense potentially is Gerald Everett, since after all, Seattle paid him about $8 million last year, and the franchise tag cost is just under $11 million. I can't pay him that much. Although I could see Everett maybe getting a 3-year, $33 million deal from somebody. I'm not paying that. I don't think that's worthwhile for me and my organization. I'm okay with bringing back Everett, not at an $11 million per year price tag. Frankly, I would go give that to Dalton Schultz instead. I think he's a better football player, better fit than Everett. So Everett's fine. You cut that figure in half, let's have that conversation. But I'd be interested in tagging those guys. So of the potential tag options, the one that makes sense to me is one I think is most important to retain. That's Diggs. What do you guys think, though? Pick one of these three players to keep. You can keep one of them if you want via the franchise tag, but maybe you don't want to. Type D for Diggs, B for Brown, E for Everett. If Seattle does tag somebody, you know that we'll break it down. So subscribe to stay in the know on all of the latest Seahawks rumors, news, free agency, draft, trade stuff, roster moves, coaching. We're going to get into all that here on today's video. So if you have not already, join us here on Seattle Seahawks Today. Hit that big red button. It's youtube.com/Seahawks TV. In the words of intern Jack, don't shoot the messenger, but the Russell Wilson talk is back thanks to Russ himself because he changed his Seahawks-themed profile picture and header to more generic stuff. For the record, I blame Kyler Murray for this. This is the new Russell Wilson profile picture. Very, very young Russ, but also you can still clearly tell it's him and his new banner as well, him and his family, which isn't a big deal. But when you go from Seahawks to away from Seahawks, amid all of the rumors out there and speculation of, could a Russ trade happen, it's only going to elicit more of it. Now, if you think Russ will be back next season, type me right now, because I think Russell Wilson is back this upcoming year for the Seahawks. As your me's are coming in, a reminder, this can go away easily. All Russell Wilson has to do is come out and say unequivocally, I'm in Seattle for as long as they'll have me. Because Seattle's let the leaks come out, we're not going to trade Russ. We have no desire to. Russ keeps saying that keep the options open. I want to be here. It's up to Russell Wilson in the end. If Wilson wants to stay, he's not going anywhere. And I hope that ends up being the case. I would extend Russell Wilson, as I've said many a time here on this channel, on this platform. But it is in the hands of Russell Wilson. If Russ goes to the team and says, you know what, I don't want to be here, they're going to probably have to trade him. And Russell Wilson make it all go away by saying, hey, I want to be here long term, and helps you in free agency, because Russell Wilson can then serve as a recruiter in the offseason. Next up, are there some changes or adjustments or role game plans coming to Seattle's defense? Some interesting quotes from the new defensive coordinator, Clint Hurtt. Before we get to that, though, how about this deal for you guys? Seahawks t-shirt combo pack, 30% off today only. Get it at chatsports.com/Seahawks sale. That link in the comments section and in the description. All sizes are available, so if you want a fantastic 2-pack of officially licensed Seahawks gear, go do it right now. chatsports.com/Seahawks sale. All right, the new DC, Clint Hurtt, had this to say. The aggressiveness is going to have to come from our edge players, our guys up front getting after the passer. He continued, with those guys, we've got good pieces. He mentioned guys like Carlos Dunlap, etc. Continuing to find another guy to be devastating, the edge rusher that can be a game changer, a game wrecker is what we need. Now, Hurtt made a lot of comments about running the outside linebacker, typical 3-4, your Von Miller style, which would, for me, jump up the need of edge rusher. I think you've got edges that are fine. Carlos Dunlap, Rasheem Green, Benson Mayowa, Kerry Hyder in that hybrid role. But if you really want a game wrecker at edge, is that Darrell Taylor? He's your more typical 3-4 stand-up edge. It's not really Dunlap's game. That's not Green's game. That's not Mayowa's game. That would leave you Darrell Taylor and Alton Robinson as your true, typical 3-4 outside linebackers. Now, for the record, you should have played Carlos Dunlap more last year, and that ended up working great. You should blitz Jamal Adams more. But if you want the typical 3-4 edge, if it's not Darrell Taylor, you probably got to go find some more help there. So some free agency names: Chandler Jones, Von Miller, Hassan Reddick, Harold Landry, all fantastic fits as that true 3-4 game wrecker. Now, I think Landry's going to get tagged at minimum, so we'll see if he's out there. But if he is, I throw a bunch of money his way. Hassan Reddick, I like him a lot. He's had a breakout year past 2 years. Of course, we're talking about Von Miller, Chandler Jones. Emmanuel Ogbah fits kind of the multitude fronts, 3-4, 4-3. Maybe you don't want to break the bank. Well, there could be some edges on the board for you in round 2 who fit that 3-4 edge style. For the record, I would just play Carlos Dunlap there, but Seattle seems similarness from that perspective. Arnold Ebiketie from Penn State, Boy Mafe from Minnesota, Drake Jackson from USC, Kingsley Enagbare from South Carolina, Myjai Sanders. And those guys maybe a bit early in round 2, but what if one falls to you later on? That could make some sense there. Oh, I would also use Jamal Adams at outside linebacker some. Right? Like, doesn't that make sense? You use him as that pass rusher. If you're looking for a game wrecker, that's what Jamal Adams was in 2020. Almost double-digit sacks and on a very small pass rushing, rotation. I would use him more there. I don't know if Seattle feels the same way as I do, because they didn't last year. Maybe the change to Clint Hurtt will result in more of that. But I think your pass rushers are fine between Dunlap, Adams, and others if you utilize them properly. Maybe the Seahawks don't want to utilize them in the way I do, which would make that need a lot more than what I've done in previous need videos. So what is your confidence level right now in the Seahawks defense next year? Scale it for me 1 to 10. 1 being you think it's terrible, 10 being the Legion of Boom is back and better than ever. Get those votes in for me in the comments. Let's talk trade now. How about going after Laremy Tunsil? Interesting ideas here. Seattle's been linked by a variety of outlets to a Laremy Tunsil trade, and Spotrack's Michael Gannetti said this, that Tunsil, Watson, and Brandon Cooks trades seem inevitable. Only one of these guys makes sense for Seattle. Houston is in the middle of a multi-year rebuild, and Watson clearly doesn't want to be there. Cooks has been the good soldier. Tunsil reportedly doesn't really want to be there either. So, after the organizations made a good trade for Duane Brown all those years ago, could Laremy Tunsil be up next? Didn't play that much this past year. 5 games, didn't allow a sack, a couple pressures allowed, didn't fare that well in the run game. Some whispers of just didn't really want to be out there, which I think were bad. I get it. But he was one of the highest paid tackles, a high guaranteed figure involved in that deal, so it wouldn't be that expensive contract-wise from Seattle. And he would give you your locked and loaded left tackle for 5-10 years. You go from one former Houston and Duane Brown to another one in Laremy Tunsil. The issue here is the cost. And Bleacher Report put together a trade package for Laremy Tunsil, a 5th to Seattle, which I hate when people do this. Oh, yeah, we'll throw you a day 3 pick because that makes it even. Okay. A 2022 second, a 2022 third, and your first-round pick next year. So your 3 best draft picks in reality going to Houston for Laremy Tunsil. That's a lot for me. An early second, an early third, and we'll say a late first. It's a pretty big package to give up for a player as good as Tunsil. You could maybe talk me into the second and the first, maybe, but a second, third, and a first, I think that's a little bit too much. At some point, you kind of want those draft picks because you're so light already to restock with some young talent. So what do you think? Who wins the trade? SCA for Seattle, meaning you do it. HOU for Houston, meaning it's lopsided in favor of the Texans. Sound off for me in the comments section. If you have not already, please hit that big red button and subscribe to everything around the Seattle Seahawks right here at Seattle Seahawks Today. If you're watching somewhere else, it's youtube.com/SeahawksTV. Remember, folks, if you want free videos every single day, take advantage of it. That way you don't miss out on anything here on the Seattle Seahawks.